What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Steelburgh. And in honor of NFL football starting back up tomorrow, we have Thursday Night Football, Cowboys at the Eagles. I will be going through my NFL record or division predictions for this season. Way too early. Season hasn't even started yet, but I think it's the perfect time. I've got all my standings listed out here as well as playoff runouts. So without further ado, because this is going to be a long video as it is, let's get right into the video. Starting with the AFC North, I have the Ravens taking the division. I think they'll end like 12, 13 wins. I actually have them as the number one seed in the AFC. I think with the addition of Malachi Starks to their secondary, Kyle Hamilton's still there. I think their defense is going to take a step up from last year. And that was really the only thing that kept their record down was their lack of defense at the beginning of the year. They had bad losses to the Saints. They lost early in the year to the Cowboys, I think. They lost one to us. And I don't know if that's going to happen this year. They look really dangerous. I think Lamar Jackson's going to have another really good year. I think Derrick Henry is going to do very well this year. And while they do have a tough schedule, I have them winning the North. Following them, we have the Bengals and the Steelers. I actually have us tied in record. I have them both at 10-7. I think the Bengals offense is going to be probably the best in the league. I mean, you have Burrow, Higgins, and Chase. I mean, that's the best wide receiver duo or duo, whatever you want to call it, with the quarterback in the league. But they're held back by their defense. I think they'll do enough to squeak out wins. I think they'll do enough to sneak out a wild card spot. But I have them tied with the Steelers at 10-7. The Steelers, we know they're going to get to 9-8 at least. And I think with their record, they can get to 10-7. I think Rodgers can steal them an extra win. And with the baseline being at 9-8, an extra win gets them to 10-7, and that's all they need. And then to wrap up the AFC North, we have the Cleveland Browns. I think they could fight for the number one draft pick this year. I have them along with Indianapolis and New Orleans as the three worst teams going into this season. I think the Browns don't have a quarterback. They barely have a wide receiver, if you can count Jerry Jeudy. Their defense is basically carried on the back of Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward. So I think they'd be lucky to get 5 wins this season. Like I said, I have them toward the bottom fraction of the league. So wrapping up the AFC North, we have the Ravens at number 1. Then we have the Bengals, Steelers, and Browns. I have the Bengals, obviously, with the tiebreaker over the Steelers, but Bengals and Steelers both may make an appearance in my wildcard picks. On to the AFC South. And this was probably the easiest division to mark out. I have the Texans at 1, Jaguars at 2. I wrote Texans twice. It should say Texans at 1, Jaguars is 2, Titans at 3, Colts at 4. Texans, I think, are going to take another step up this year. But even if they don't, their division is so pathetically horrible. I think they'll make a playoff spot regardless because of that. Jaguars, I just don't think are going to be that significantly much better this year. I mean, I think having Travis Hunter is a good step, but I just don't know if Trevor Lawrence is the guy. I'm still waiting for him to have that resurgence. And until he does, I'm not going to be putting him ahead of the Texans in the division. Rounding him out, Titans and the Colts. Titans, I think, are going to be better this year. They have an actual quarterback in Cam Ward, but that's about it. They have a meh offense. They have a pretty bad defense. I could see them in the 7-8 win range, but not much more than that, which leaves the Colts in last place because I have them maybe getting 4 wins. Between Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, I don't expect the Colts to have any offense this year. I mean, they have Tyler Warren from the draft, and they still have Michael Pittman Jr. and Jonathan Taylor. So their offense isn't going to be horrid, but it's not going to be great either. And their defense, I can't really name a single person on their defense. They're not splashy, and they don't really have the players to be splashy. And when you're led by Daniel Jones, I can't count that for any more than 4 wins. I mean, look at the Giants this past couple of years. Other than when they had Saquon Barkley, they were horrible with Daniel Jones. So I think the Colts will be mostly the same. On to the AFC East. No surprise here. This was probably the second easiest one. The only reason that I put this a little bit more difficult is because 2, 3, and 4 slots were a little hard to fill out. But obviously, the Buffalo Bills are winning this division. Josh Allen is insane. They just signed Gabe Davis back today, so there's another receiver who's familiar with the room. They brought back a couple veteran pieces in the defense. I don't think it's going to be too elite, but when you have Josh Allen, you can never rule him out. And this division, I don't know, even 11 or 12 wins is going to be plenty to wrap up the second team in the AFC and this division. 2, 3, and 4 slots were difficult, mostly because I don't know what the health of Tua is going to be like. Tua has been dealing with concussions, and if he has another one, they're dealing with Zach Wilson as their backup quarterback, and we saw how that went in New York. So I put them in third. I have the Patriots in second place in their division. I think Drake May will take a step up here. I think Stephon Diggs is going to have a comeback season. I don't think he's going to be as good as he was after the ACL injury, but I think he will have a comeback. And I really like Michael Vrabel. I like what he's going to do with his team, and I'm excited to watch them play, which is not something I've said for a long time with the New England Patriots. Wrapping up the division, I have the Dolphins in third and the Jets in fourth. I don't think the Dolphins or Jets are going to be terrible. I think this division, other than the Bills, will be pretty mid. Maybe the Patriots at like 9 wins. Give the Dolphins and Jets between 5 and 7 apiece. Oop, I dropped my notebook. But I don't think either of them are going to be necessarily terrible, but I don't think Justin Fields, if Justin Fields couldn't lead the Steelers or couldn't start for the Steelers over Russell Wilson, I don't think he's going to be able to lead the Jets, who have, I don't even know if I could say significantly less offensive talent, because they have Garrett Wilson, but less offensive talent than the Steelers. I don't think he's going to be able to lead them properly. I don't really trust Robert Saleh. Is he even the head coach of the Jets anymore? I don't remember. And Dolphins, it all depends on Tua. The Dolphins could easily be number 2 in the division. They could easily even fight for a playoff spot. But it all depends on the health of Tua, and I just don't trust it. The way he runs basically head first into the defenders, it's like he's asking for a concussion. And at this point in his career, I don't know if he would be able to continue playing through another one. It might be a retirement call. And wrapping up the AFC, we have the AFC West. And this was maybe the most difficult division to place. Definitely in the AFC, the most difficult between this one and the NFC North. But I did, at the end of the day, put the Chiefs at number 1. I feel like with their devil magic and with Mahomes and Kelsey, you can't rule them out. I very well think it could be a tiebreaker, though, because the number 2 spot being the Denver Broncos, I think could give them a run for their money. I think the Broncos are going to be really good this year. I think they could be a sneaky contender. I think Bo Nix is going to have a really good start. Can't rule out Cortland Sutton. You have Pat Surtain in the defense. They finally got a good running back in J.K. Dobbins, who I do think is good despite his recent injury struggles. I think the Broncos could be a really scary team this year, and I feel like the Chiefs will still find a way to win the division, but I do have the Broncos making the playoffs. Just behind the Broncos, I have the LA Chargers. Chargers are an interesting team because you never really know what you're going to get. I mean, Herbert is a social media quarterback. He's okay, right? He'll get the job done when he needs to. Will he single-handedly win you a game? Probably not. But if you put the pieces around him to succeed, he'll probably do all right. They didn't really impress me with any of the pieces they brought in. They have Najee Harris, who's okay. They have Marion Hampton, another solid running back. You know they're going to run the ball a lot. They brought back Keenan Allen, and it's okay, you have Lad McConkey, who's a solid wide receiver, but I think they're just going to be okay. I have them probably 9 wins, maybe could sneak into the 10-win range, but with the Chiefs and Broncos both in the division, I even think the Raiders could potentially steal a game from them, which I think they'll be better this year. I think it's going to be too tough to make a push for the playoffs in that way. Wrapping up the West, as I kind of alluded to, we have the Las Vegas Raiders. I think they're going to be better this year with Austin Jeanty, Geno Smith being the quarterback, Pete Carroll as the head coach. They're going to be better this year, but this is a stacked division. I mean, you could potentially have 3 playoff teams with the Chiefs, Broncos, and Chargers in it, and that's 6 games the Raiders have to play during the season. I'm going to be honest, unless they steal one from the Chargers, or that's really the only thing I think they could do is steal one from the Chargers, they might go 0-6 in divisional games, and that's already setting them back. Not to mention the other games that they have to play this season. I just think they're in too big of a hole. Like, they're a good team in any other division. They could make a fight for it, but I don't think they can get more than 7 or 8 wins this season. And they are building for the future, but it's not looking good for them off the bat. Moving on to the NFC, we have the NFC North. And I alluded to this earlier. This is maybe the most difficult one I had to place besides the AFC West. I did end up giving it to the returning NFC North champs, the Detroit Lions. I think even if they won the division, even since they won the division last year, with as hurt as their defense was, if they even have half of the defense that they lost last year this year, I think they'll still be able to do it. I mean, without Aiden Hutchinson, they lost like half of their linebacker core. Jared Goff is still solid. They still have Amon-Ra St. Brown. They still have Gibbs and Montgomery. This is just a good team, and they could very well make a push for the Super Bowl this year. I have a hard time pulling the division away from them unless I see something really detrimental. Yes, they lost their offensive defense coordinator, but the guys they brought in weren't slouches. I mean, they brought in some good guys to fill in those roles, and they still have Dan Campbell, who can always energize his team. So until the Lions prove me otherwise, I'm going to have them at the top of the division. Second, we have the Green Bay Packers. And they would have been... They were a fight for the number 1 spot, especially bringing in Micah Parsons. I think the Packers are going to be really, really dangerous this year. The one thing, honestly, that I think kept them below the Lions is I don't know what the offense is going to look like. Jordan Love has proven that he's a good quarterback. He hasn't really shown that he can be an elite quarterback yet. And with the addition of Matthew Golden and still having Romeo Doubs, you wonder if maybe they can take that next step into the elite tier of offenses. I think their defense is going to be really, really good with Micah Parsons this year. However, I just haven't seen that yet. So just like the Lions, I cannot put them into that number 1 spot without seeing how these pieces meld together. I think the Packers could be really good. I will tell you, I have them in a playoff spot this year. However, I cannot put them ahead of the team like the Lions without seeing that first. And to round out the North, we have the Vikings in 3rd and the Bears in 4th. Now, some Bears fans probably aren't going to be super happy with this one. And that's simply just because I haven't really seen anything that makes me really trust Caleb Williams. He was a system of bad here. He was a product of bad coaching last year that made him look bad in a couple games. The Bears got some unlucky losses in those games, but I haven't seen anything that made me really scream, yes, he's great. And the Vikings have an unproven quarterback as well in J.J. McCarthy. However, the Vikings have Justin Jefferson on their team. They have, they don't have T.J. Hawkinson anymore. They have Jordan Addison when he eventually comes back from suspension. They have Kevin O'Connell, who is a stellar quarterback coach. And the Bears haven't really proven that they can make a scene in tough situations, I should say. So for these reasons, I'm giving the Vikings the benefit of the doubt. I will gladly apologize to Bears fans if I'm wrong in 4 months when the Vikings are 0-7 and the Bears are 7-0. But for now, I have the Vikings in 3rd and Bears in 4th, and honestly, I don't have any of them making the playoffs anyway. In the NFC South, we have Tampa Bay Buccaneers sitting at number 1. Again, I think this is their division to lose. Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Emeka Egbuka, Chris Godwin when he comes back from injury. Their offense is just so stellar, and their defense is solid. And honestly, that's all you need in this division. You have 2 easy wins against the Saints. You have maybe a split against the Falcons and Panthers, but I think the Buccaneers could win both games against the Panthers. So already you're getting probably 4, if not 5, divisional wins there. And I think kind of like the Texans in the South, this is their division to win or their division to lose. And until I see otherwise, I'm going to put them there. The only one who could potentially give them hope is the number 2 team, and that's the Atlanta Falcons. And that all depends on Michael Penix. Can he have that bounce back, or not even bounce back, but that big second year? He didn't play for all of last year. He only played a couple games, but he looked good in the games that he did play. Can he spread the ball out? Can he get Kyle Pitts involved? Can he get Drake London involved? How will those new edge rushers that they drafted, will they actually get pressure on a quarterback? Like, there's so many questions with the Falcons that I'm not ready to put them over the Buccaneers yet, but I could very well see a situation where they do take that spot from the Buccaneers, in which case the Buccaneers could very well end up in a wild card spot because I think they're good enough to do so over some other teams in this division. Rounding out the South, we have the Carolina Panthers at 3 and the Saints at 4. Saints, I mentioned earlier, are going to be one of the worst teams in the league. I have them maybe 3 wins. They're not starting Tyler Shuck, who they drafted to be supposedly the starting quarterback. They really have no offense outside of Chris Olave, and even he can't stay healthy. Alvin Kamara is not getting any younger. I can't name anyone on their defense. Like, the Saints just are in a sad state of affairs. Panthers, on the other hand, I have some hope for. They're in the 3rd spot now, but they could easily jump up to number 2. Bryce Young, it all depends on him. Can he have a really good 3rd year? Can he get up to where Stroud is playing in the AFC? They have Xavier Legette again. They have Chuba Hubbard in the backfield. They just drafted Tedero McMillan, another big body wide receiver. So it's really going to depend on can Bryce Young take this offense to another level? And if he can, they could put up a fight in the Moving NFC. On to the NFC East, and no real surprise here. I have the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles at number 1. Just too many superstars returning. I mean, that is a star-studded team. Nick Sirianni as the head coach, Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Cooper DeJean, like, just a monster team. Like, I would not be surprised if they made it back to the big game. However, I do think the Commanders at number 2 could give them a run for their money for the division. I think Jaden Daniels is going to have a really good second year. They just re-signed Terry McLaurin. They did lose Brian Robinson in a trade. However, they still have Bill Krosky Merritt, I believe is the name of their rookie, and the veteran Austin Eckler. So they're pretty good in the backfield. I don't think they're going to take the spot from the Eagles. However, I do think they are going to make a playoff run again. Same cannot be said for the 3rd and 4th place teams in the division, being the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants, respectively. Dallas Cowboys could have made a push for number 1 for the division. They always have a really good regular season and then tend to fall off at the end. Not this time. The Dallas Cowboys traded Michael Parsons to the Green Bay Packers earlier in this offseason, only actually like a week ago, actually. And they lost the trade, plain and simple. Unless Parsons gets hurt and never plays a snap for the Green Bay Packers, Cowboys got 2 first-round picks, which are going to be late 20s picks. I mean, I have the Packers making the playoffs. I think they will fairly easily. And so the Cowboys are just going to get 2 mid to late 20s first round picks for an all-pro edge rusher. Like, I don't know. This whole season for the Cowboys kind of feels like a wash. Like, their top running back is Jaden Blue. Yeah, they have George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb, and they still have Dak Prescott, but they're kind of just turning into the Bengals, but with a worse offense. A good offense and a terrible defense. So we'll see what happens. I don't have the Cowboys making the playoffs anymore. I did originally before the Michael Parsons trade, but now they'll be joining the Giants, who also will not be making the playoffs, in the pits of draft hell. The Giants, Joe Shane and Brian Dable will probably be in their last years with this regime. This is really just a building year. See what you have with Jackson Dart. See what you have with Scattaboo. Your second year of Tyron Tracy. Your second year of Malik Neighbors. Like, just see what you got, because you're probably not going to be making a push this year. Push for the future and try and build. They have Russell Wilson starting now, but I don't see him starting for very long. I think Jackson Dart will probably get the start by week 3 or 4. And I don't expect the Giants to finish any better than 4th place in their division. Moving on to the NFC West, I have the 49ers back on top of the division after they were last place last year. And I think it all hinges on Christian McCaffrey's return. I don't think he's going to have a Saquon Barkley-like year. I don't expect him to get 2,000 yards rushing or anything crazy like that. But the 49ers are significantly better historically when Christian McCaffrey's on the field. They still have a stellar defense led by Nick Bosa. And they have a serviceable quarterback in Brock Purdy. I think the 49ers are just a good regular season team. Like, they've proven it. They've been to the Super Bowl, twice in the past 6 years, with Jimmy Garoppolo the first time and then Brock Purdy the second time. So they can do it before. They still have Brandon Ayuk. They're going to have Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall as the other receivers. We're going to see what they can do there. And this is a bit of a toss-up because my second place team in this division, the Rams, I almost put them at first. But the reason I didn't is all because of the health of Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford has not played any preseason and has missed most of training camp with a back injury. If Matthew Stafford does not play for the Rams, they will be a bottom half team in the league this year. If he does play, they could make a fight for the division. I'm not going to put him low with the prediction that Matthew Stafford isn't going to play, but I can't put him at first place with the prediction that he's going to play perfectly healthy. He's an old quarterback. Old quarterbacks get hurt. It just happens. So I kind of hedged my bets and put him in second place. Not to mention, they do still have some stars. Jared Verse was a stud on the defensive line last year. They have Puka Nacua still as a wide receiver. Kyron Williams is a good running back option. So they do have good options, good weapons for Stafford if he is healthy. But if he's not, then they're starting either Jimmy Garoppolo or Stetson Bennett as their backup quarterbacks, neither of which give them a good chance to win. So I have them in second now, but I'm not confident about that. They could easily fluctuate in either direction. In third and fourth place, rounding out the division, I have the Seattle Seahawks and the Arizona Cardinals. And this whole division has kind of been the division of what ifs. For the Seahawks, it's what is Sam Darnold? Is Sam Darnold the Jets quarterback that we saw, or the quarterback in the playoffs with the Vikings who was panicking and throwing to nowhere? Or is he the quarterback we saw at the beginning of the year with the Vikings, where Kevin O'Connell embraced his strengths and he was able to find a rhythm? He was a good quarterback. He was serviceable. He got the Vikings to the playoffs. Which one are we going to see for the Seahawks? Because they don't have a Justin Jefferson. They have Jackson Smith and Jigba, and they have Cooper Kupp, who's not getting any younger. He's in his early to mid-30s. I'm not exactly sure how old Cooper Kupp is now, but he's not getting any younger. So it's really going to be interesting to see what they can do with Sam Darnold and what Sam Darnold we're going to see. And that's why there can be a lot of fluctuation in this division. Seahawks could easily finish second, but if Sam Darnold's a total bust, he could easily finish in last place. Same thing with the Cardinals and Kyler Murray. What Kyler Murray and what Marvin Harrison Jr. are we going to see this year? I think a lot of fans expected Marvin Harrison Jr. to kind of have this big step up last season, be this mega receiver that kind of like Puka Nacua was in his first season in the NFL, where everyone was like, wow, who is this guy? I think Marvin Harrison Jr. was drafted with the expectation that he'd make these big impacts, and he just wasn't. Whether if that's the scheming that was made for him, or if it's just that he wasn't giving his full effort, because you can see some rookies do that sometimes, but it's going to be really interesting to see what they do this season. And for now, yeah, I have him in fourth place. But again, the Cardinals could easily be up or down. Maybe Kyler Murray finally reaches his full potential, and him and Marvin Harrison Jr. have an MVP caliber season. Do I think that's likely? No. That's why I put them in fourth, because I think they're most likely to be toward that bottom. But honestly, this whole division could be rotated. At the end of the season, I would not be surprised to see it completely flipped around. Cardinals first, Seahawks second, Rams third, 49ers fourth. But I think the order I have them in now, 49ers, Rams, Seahawks, Cardinals, is the most likely and probably, I guess, a synonym, most probable way that it's going to pan out this season. Wrapping things up with just a little recap for how I think the AFC and NFC playoff picture will look. I have the Ravens in the 1 seed, the Bills in the 2 seed, Chiefs at 3, Texans at 4, rounding out the divisions. And then for the 3 wild cards, I have the Broncos, Bengals, and Steelers. Honorable mention being the Chargers. I think they could easily pass either the Bengals or Steelers if either of them has a bad year. A lot of up and down there, but for now, Broncos, Bengals, and Steelers wrap up the 3 wild card in the AFC. And then in the NFC, I have the Eagles in the 1 seed, the Lions in the 2, and the Buccaneers and the 49ers in the 3s and 4s, wrapping up the division. And then the wild cards, there was a lot of teams that could have maybe snuck in, especially from the NFC West. But I have the Packers, the Commanders, and the Rams in that wild card. Really, only the 7th spot was really up for grabs there. I really think the Packers and the Commanders kind of have the 5 and 6 seeds locked up. However, either the Seahawks or the Cardinals could make a push for that final spot in the NFC. So there you have it. This is a much longer video than I normally do. It's probably about double the length. However, I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think, what you disagree with, and what you agree with. I love hearing your opinions, so please leave them in the comments. I will try to read them all and get back to you on all of them. That's all I have for you today. Have a good morning, evening, afternoon, everybody. Goodbye again from the Steelburgh.